Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. This is Bart, gladly reporting to you that England has still yet to beat the United States in a World Cup match. That's right, the USA and England drew on Black Friday 0-0. The United States continues its lossless streak, if you will, against the English to 3 World Cup games. That's right, we have still been able to hold that 1950 victory for 70 some years. It is a great day to be an American. It is a great day to be a soccer fan in this country and to brag all about it and to look forward to hopefully more positive things. It's Joey Logan. Joey, man, we didn't lose, and it almost felt like we should have won.
Yeah, again, less than points on the table, less than things to be desired. The first half was electric. I think the MMA midfield played probably their best game collectively together. I can't really remember another time. They were just so in sync and just so aggressive and just everywhere all over the pitch. Tyler Adams, have to point him out. He was the best player on the pitch, I think. I can't really even say the England players were better than he was. He was just dominating the midfield, knocking out fires, trying to create, trying to put in McKinney, trying to put in Musa, trying to bring in Pulisic. He just absolutely dominated, led like a captain should lead. It was great to see.
I'm glad you said that because honestly, this kid captaining the team into this World Cup, clearly he was voted on that by the players. Greg has kind of tried him out there a few times, but I got to be honest, Tyler Adams is the captain not only for this tournament, but for the foreseeable future for the United States men's national team. And I could not be more proud to have a guy like that leading this team. You said it, though. He was the best player on the field, period. I know Christian Pulisic won Budweiser Man of the Match, but let's be honest. The man of the match for both teams was Tyler Adams.
Absolutely, man. The man of the match award has been really dumb. They gave it to Kevin De Bruyne. Even he was like, I don't really think I played a great game. I think it's just because of my name. And he was absolutely right. He made some awful passes in that first game, and obviously they lost today, so he even looked more foolish today by his stat line. But, it should have gone to Tyler Adams. You could say Matt Turner. Matt Turner made some amazing saves. He kept the U.S. in it. He was aggressive off his line. He wasn't timid. He made a decision and went with it. He communicated well with his defenders. It seemed like, again, the back line was in sync with Matt Turner, but definitely Tyler Adams, man of the match. He should have easily won that award. I think I just saw some U.S. Soccer that just posted that he was man of the match, but he didn't.
He was man of the match voted on by U.S. Soccer fans.
Man of the match, yeah, which is weird, but anyway, no, definitely deserving of man of the match, and should have got that little dumb Budweiser trophy.
Which you can't even drink out of there. That's kind of the weird part. But oh well. Let's talk a little bit more about the match itself, the tactics, because we can talk about the individual performances, which were fantastic. I thought Christian Pulisic was much better today than he was against Wales. Obviously, we talked about Tyler Adams, but the McKinney and Musa pairing ahead of him were fantastic. Ream and Zimmerman were great. Individually, the players played very well. But as a team, they played with so much tenacity and togetherness, which is something that we have seen at times from this U.S. men's national team. But it really also felt like Greg Berhalter made the correct adjustments, not just to start the game, but in game to make sure that this team was able to not only keep pressure on England, but also keep themselves organized and able to respond to any of the problems that came out of England's attack and shifting formation as well. What did you make out of Berhalter kind of coming out with more of a 4-4-2 formation that really the goal was to put England into wide spaces? Now, personally, if you were to tell me that, I'd go, wait a minute, England is good on the wing. That's where Bukayo Saka, that's where, Raheem Sterling, those are where those guys play. They're really good players, but it seemed like it worked to force them wide. What did you make of that when you saw it in the first, few minutes of the match that was the game plan?
The tactics in the first half were really spot on. Like you said, they tried to make them play wide, which, again, you would think, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, they have all these, speedsters, but it starts from the middle. They control the midfield And they get Declan Rice, they get Jude Bellingham, but they just couldn't get the service they needed because, again, Tyler Adams, McKennie, and Munson were basically in their face. Like, they were really close to them. And if they weren't close to them, they were playing in a way that was denying those passing lanes to find them. And they just couldn't. Everything was going backwards. Everything was going backwards and side to side. Unfortunately, it was like Manchester United and Louis Van Gaal. It was side to side, backwards. And then they, had probably about a 10, 15-minute window where they got the pressure and got those few shots in the box. But felt U.S. collapsed well. They didn't give, a stupid goal. They didn't give a deflection. They didn't give a rebound. They were very, very tactically sound in terms of how to defend. And then on the counter was really impressive. Just getting out quickly and just trying to hit them, right over the top, I think was the most impressive thing because England's not used to getting, run out like that. And even, Southgate said they were so athletic. Like, he was really surprised at how athletic the United States team is. And we've known that. I mean, we know that we have good athletes. We think the best athletes in the world play for U.S. soccer, which I think they do personally. But yeah, they were so athletic and just so tactically sound that it was great to see, and Greg got it spot on the first half for me.
Yeah, I mean, even within that first half, there seemed to be a couple of little tweaks to the formation, bringing a guy back into the midfield. So you had three to kind of counteract the trio of Bellingham, Rice, and Mount. But I mean, overall, this team was just so, I think, aware of the problems in front of them and around them that it really was a great example of what a team that is fully locked in can do. Now, we didn't win, and I think that's kind of where I want to throw a little bit of a wet blanket on all this, is that the United States still has played very well. I think it's fair to say the United States has played 2.5 really good halves of soccer in the first 2 matches of this tournament. We had a really great opening half against Wales, pretty good opening half against England, and a pretty good second half even in this game too. But we only got 2 points. We have yet to win, and we've only scored 1 goal. So is it fair to say that this result, though a draw is a good result? Do you think that maybe we're still just not – I mean, yes, we played really well, but things just aren't quite clicking the way that they should?
No, they definitely aren't. They created, 3 clear-cut chances in the first half. I can't remember, really, maybe 1 in the second half. So we created more chances in the second game. But going from the first game to the second game where you create 1 and you score, not really create another, then creating 4, I mean, that's still somewhat of an improvement. But you got to be creating, about 10 chances a game. If you're not creating 10, then your chances of scoring obviously go down and down. Create 10 chances first half, 10 chances second. That's 20 total shots. If you were to net 2 of those, obviously not a great percentage, 10%, 50%, 20%, not a great percentage, but still creating 20 chances and scoring 2 would be more ideal. So I think that hopefully they unlock those chances next game. And, I mean, Iran has to go for it. Like, they can't sit back and play. I mean, they could play for a draw, but they're taking a risk of assuming that, Wales is going to lose to England. It's still not, for some reason, the final third. Like, it seems like the back line and the midfield is connected. We're just having a disconnect between the midfield and the final third. I don't know if that's a striker issue or if that's a Pulisic issue or that's a Weah issue. I think it's mainly the striker issue. We've had now 2 strikers play up there, and they just can't seem to get involved at all, create a chance. Still, the chances are coming, but they're coming from the wide areas or from the midfielder pushing forward and not from the actual central striker who's supposed to score goals.
Yeah, it's been a little frustrating to watch as a team play really well. But joining us now, Thomas / US Kiefer, as you know him on Twitter. Man, again, it's just like you see this team playing with such spirit, such tenacity through both of the first 2 games. But we only got 2 points. We've only scored 1 goal. So as much as I want to be super positive about this performance, at the end of the day, as Canada, results matter. What do we need to do now as we kind of look forward to the future to say, okay, this was a really good performance. What's that next step to get the result that we need?
I mean, we started a little bit, I think, in the last match. I mean, Greg did a different formation. I think that was important to be able to take away England's attack up the middle. But we've got to find a way to do it on the attack. Greg's his style of play is not conducive to that.
Yeah.
It requires our wingers to cross the ball to our striker. I mean, it's not there. It's not working. From a goal, shots on goal, perspective. I mean, again, I don't know what we do there. I'm not really sure how much you can change that at this point. What we need, I think, you need more creativity, centrally, and how they're going to do that. I mean, I think the answer is Gio, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, we did mention and alluded to a couple of just a minor change really to the starting lineup and a change to the formation. But let's run through the starting lineup and then we'll kind of get a little bit more into the match now that all three of us are together. We had in goal Matt Turner. The back line remained unchanged. Des, Zimmerman, Ream, Robinson, McKinney, Adams, and Musa in the midfield. And then Weah, Pulisic, and Haji Wright getting the start at striker. Now, Thomas, we saw Sargent in the first game. We saw Wright in the first game at the end of the game. Was it surprising that Haji Wright started, or was it more of a, that kind of makes sense move from Berhalter?
I mean, I was shocked, at first when I saw the lineup. Then when I saw them play a little bit differently, it made a little bit more sense to why they were going with Haji over Sargent, because I think if you're going to be having, two strikers in the way they were playing to start the game, and obviously defensively the way they wanted to play, I think there had made some sense to do that. I mean, I think he was as effective as he had a couple opportunities, but he wasn't overly effective. I mean, mind you, the U.S. hasn't played that formation in some time, so I think there is something to be said for not having that opportunity to see that. But also, it may have played to their favor, defensively to show England that, because I don't think England was really prepared to see that formation. They adjusted a little bit in the second half, but it was more effective on the U.S. side, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Joey, as you said, we still haven't had a goal from the striker position specifically. Wright had 2 shots. One was blocked, one was off target. So we're not getting that production from the striker position. But I think it's very safe to say, Joey, that Christian Pulisic was much better today. What did you notice from him on the field that really seemed to mark that he was in a much better space today?
I think he just got the feed and he just turned and went. Like, he wasn't apprehensive. He knew what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go. The shot he had off the crossbar, I mean, it was just made out of nothing. But that's what Christian Pulisic can do. He just doesn't do it as often. I don't know if that's from confidence with playing Chelsea and hardly getting minutes, but he can do those kind of special moments, and he just can get the service and get into space and turn a defender. I take him, 1v1 against most right backs. I don't know, I wouldn't say anybody's going to lock him down. And actually, it was surprising for him to get that much success against an England right back and back line that's considered, one of the best in the world. He just went for it, man. He didn't allow himself to get frustrated. He didn't allow himself to get, locked down. He said, I'm going to take it. Like, there was one game I can remember during qualifying. He just took over the game. Like, he literally took it on his shoulders. He said, I'm going to win this game for my country. And that's what we need to see from Pulisic. That's the kind of Pulisic, that second level, similar to Gio Reyna. When Gio Reyna gets on and gets in the mood, I mean, he's on fire. And if we could see that from Pulisic every time, instead of, one game he's this person and the other game he's this person, it's like Jekyll and Hyde pretty much. But no, he just took his chances, man. Just played the only way he knows to play how, which is driving forward and getting to the box.
Well, that kind of happened, though, after the first, 10, 15 minutes of the game, because when this game started off, it really seemed like England came out trying to dominate. They had 4 shots within the first 15 minutes. And the U.S. never, to me, it didn't feel like we were fully into the game until we had that header from Haji Wright in the 17th minute. And at that point, it was like, oh, okay, we can do this. But after that, Thomas, it was the U.S.'s game. I mean, we really, to borrow a phrase from the English to say, invented the sport, even though they can't beat us at it, they really bossed the game. The U.S. did. It was fun to see, right?
It was frankly, I don't say surprising, only because the start wasn't, it was England dominated. I mean, crazy. Their possession, their attack, everything about was domination. And then it was then something clicked, and it's like, here we go. We've got this, guys. Let's go ahead and attack. Let's go ahead and put that additional pressure on constantly, over and over and over again. And I mean, and that's, that's kind of how the game plays out in general. A lot of times it takes 15, 20 minutes to kind of get into the rhythm of the game and see, and make those decisions, because those are the times you don't want to give up early goals. You don't want to give goals at all, but you want to you want to be able to have that opportunity to kind of feel the game out. They did that, and then they were able to kind of flip the strip and then put that additional pressure on. It was great. I mean, it was not to steal from Greg, but they were able to play at a high level versus a great team. At the World Cup, and get a result. Now, it wasn't the winning result that we would have wanted, but it was there, and so we need to see that carry over, to the next match. But you've got to bring it home. You've got to finish it now. You've got to put it all together and get that 3 points. Yeah,
to your point, I do feel like the first 15 minutes for the U.S. was very much okay, let's not concede. And Joey, we had a great block from Walker Zimmerman. He got in front of a shot, obviously not fully making up for his penalty, his foul on Gareth Bale in the box last match to give up a penalty. But I felt like defensively we were really locked in that first 10 minutes because we were aware of the danger England could provide. But, Joey, after that, I mean, I don't feel like Saka or Sterling or anyone really who came onto the field for England I just didn't feel like they won a 1v1 attempt against us. I mean, our defensive effort today was really quite something.
Absolutely, man. Like you said, the first 10, 15 minutes, we were constantly under pressure, had a few shots, and that block was massive. Just defending the corners, defending the free kicks. That was what I really did want. I didn't want to get a free, freaking free kick or corner kick goal. And that's just bugged the crap out of me. We give up set piece goals. We didn't. We defended well, and as Thomas said, it takes that 10, 15 minutes to get into the game, to see the spaces, to see the movement, and that's what from then on. I mean, the U.S. dominated the rest of the first half, and I guess that's going to be not necessarily the game plan going into it next time. Next time needs to flip because U.S. needs to go forward next time. They can't, sit back the first 10, 15 minutes and wait to see what Iran's going to do. We've got to score. It's obvious, and somebody had tweeted, it's not going to be one goal. They're going to need 2 goals. Like, they're not going to be able to sustain and not concede for some odd reason. I just don't think keeping a clean sheet in this game. It's going to be a pretty open game. I'd be really shocked if Iran sat back with 11 behind the ball and just tried to kick everything out because, again, they're playing a dangerous game with that. It's great to see, man. It was the switch from about the 20th minute for the rest of the half and into the second half. I got to the 70th, 75th minute and started to make subs, which were a little late. That's when they kind of tailed off and they kind of said, okay, we're just going to, take the point. We'll share the spoils, so to speak, and we'll, go into the next match. But
that's a good point because I think there were 2 distinct moments in this game that each team decided a draw was fine. The United States came out in that second half and pretty much put their foot on the pedal and really seemed like they were having the best play in the game. You had about from probably the 55th minute to like the 65th minute, a good 10-minute stretch there, where it just seemed like we were getting corner after shot after free kick, just so many chances. We weren't able to, break down the barrier, but it really felt like we were really pressing England, and it felt like a goal was coming. But then England brings on Jordan Henderson specifically in that midfield for Jude Bellingham. And I think at that point that was a little bit of Gareth Southgate saying, all right, you know what? Let's shore some things up. Let's make sure we don't lose here because a loss for England in this game and a win for us would have made things very difficult for them on that final day because obviously we know Wales-England is going to be a very intense match. We know Wales is going to be going after England. Even now, Wales still has a chance technically, but, at the end of the day, we know that Wales-England is going to be intense. So I feel like Southgate at that point said, okay, let's sit back a little bit more. Let's take this draw. And the U.S. still seemed like we had an advantage, but Thomas, it did feel like we kind of ran out of gas a little bit there, and we didn't really have the legs. And then finally we make some changes in the 77th minute. Do you think that Berhalter waited too long to make those subs?
I mean, I think he did. I mean, I mentioned earlier with the start of the game, 15, 20 minutes. It's going to take a sub 15 or 20 minutes to acclimate to what's going on in the match. I mean, it's just, we've seen it too often. I mean, I think Aronson's great off the bench, but he just can't get into the flow of the game at that point. You're dealing with a lot of tired legs on your own team, and that can be challenging at times to be able to maintain that pace on the field. And I think you have to be more strategic about that move when you do that. You can't wait as long, because I think you just can't wait as long. Greg has to pull that trigger a little bit faster. One, because in this game here, I think one of the subs was sitting on the sideline for what it seemed like 5 to 7 minutes, ready to come in, but the ball never went out of play to the advantage to be able to make that sub at the time. So you have to make that consideration, I think, a little bit earlier in the match to make that move and pull that trigger, because you're not going to have that luxury. I mean, there's no overtime here. We've got to get this, score early, score often, and get that lead earlier in the game. So you can make those changes along the way. And as just said, that's one goal isn't gonna cut it. You're gonna need a couple. You can't live on the one goal. That's not. You can't play for the tie. You've got to go for the win. And that's the great thing. They went for the win against England.
Yeah.
And that was so impressive to see that. But you still have to finish it though. And that's just where that coaching is just not fully, present in the moment with really what's going on, in there. And I think that's the hurt of not having those games leading up to the tournament a little bit, to be able to kind of see what that substitution opportunity allows you, to bring in the groups.
Yeah, like Joey, I feel like this is a criticism I have a Berhalter a lot. I think we've all kind of expressed this, where Homeboy needs to anticipate that he needs to make a change, right? It seems like I remember specifically that qualifying game against Canada in Nashville, where yes, we were playing really well. We were doing all the things we wanted to do in his mind. We'd only get scored one goal and we gave up a goal. But yeah, okay, look, it was a 1-1 draw, but he waited until the 83rd minute to make a sub when it was very clear that we just needed new energy in the game. And so, Joey, I just feel like, I don't know if you feel this too, but there needs to be a better anticipation from Greg or a better awareness of when it's not that he needs a sub because there's a problem. Sometimes a sub is because, we've got an advantage. Let's get some fresh meat into here. Let's get some fresh energy that can really turn this game in our favor. And I feel like Aronson could have been that if he wouldn't have been subbed on in the 77th minute.
You're absolutely right. Aronson came on too late for me. I was hoping, look at the clock, because I'm here for 60 minutes. Go ahead and get a sub. Okay, we're 70 minutes, get a sub. And then he's standing there 77th minute. And then again, we said, where's Gio Reyna? And he comes in the 83rd minute. I'm like, what's he going to do in 10 minutes, maybe 15 with extra time? That was just...
You're not going to impact a game offensively with 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
No. Like Thomas has said, it takes a little while to get into the game. You can warm up and have a sub. The speed of the game is just way beyond. And Aronson probably could adapt to a little bit better, quicker, because he's played in the Premier League. But Gio Reyna, not say he can, but he could too as well. But he's going to have more time. Honestly, the window for me is the 60 to 65th minute. That's about a half hour, and you can get into the game and affect the game. And if you want to stretch it, maybe the 70th. So again, you get 20 minutes, maybe 25, or now 30 with all the extra time that we've had. That's about the time. Anything after that is just pointless. You're just either time wasting, or you're just trying to, last gasp, I guess, if you're throwing on a bunch of strikers. But that wasn't even the case. We threw on Aronson, we threw on Reyna. They brought in Shaq Moore, which was great to see him, obviously. I think that was just a tiredness issue with Dest. He didn't seem to want to come off. But we just didn't really make any impactful subs at the right time. Then we said it again. We said the first game, we said the second game. So hopefully the third game we'll see a change, but I'm not very hopeful.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest criticism I have of Berhalter in this tournament specifically. We can talk about Gio Reyna not playing, but like I think part of that issue is him just refusing to use subs as a way to keep an advantage as opposed to react to the opposition making changes. And I know he likes to refer to the substitutions as solutions because he thinks he's smart or whatever. I don't know what goes on in his head, but it really is unfortunate that this is a game specifically where I feel like Aronson maybe could have come on for McKennie, who had a great game. I don't think that's, I think it's fair to say that, but we just needed some new energy, someone who is going to really turn and run at a tired England defense. I mean, you had John Stones and Harry Maguire, who played pretty well, but like all they were doing really was heading balls out of the air and clearing balls. If you would have had a Brendan Aronson running at them, I mean, we know that those guys are not exactly, especially Maguire, they're not exactly fleet of foot. And I just feel like those are opportunities missed that Greg's not anticipating. But I mean, other than that, are there really any other blunders that Greg kind of made this game? Because I have the feeling that it was mostly good. Thomas, why don't you take that?
Sorry. Oh
yes,
yeah. His formation was. I mean, again, he did what he needed to do with that, which I'm sorry. I Greg's credit. It was very surprising. The 4-4-2 it provided, shutting down the middle of the attack of England, pushing it to the sideline for the defenders, and creating that just different look and change that we haven't seen. I think that was a smart tactical move. It's one of the few I think we've seen him as manager do, to start a match. We've seen the halftime stuff, a little here and there, but I think it was, I don't have all that much to complain about from that side of it. I think it's the timing of the subs is just something he's got to just be able to time a little bit. I was just looking the match where in the World Cup qualifying, they were down. Shoot, I just had it up. It was Honduras. They were down, I think, at halftime. He made 3 subs at halftime in that match, and obviously we know what happened there. They scored 4 unanswered goals. So he made 3 subs at half. He made Aaron Robinson came in for Bello, Aronson came in for Sargent, and what was the other one? And Leggett came in for John Brooks. And so, I mean, that he could sense that obviously they were down in that match, and that was critical to what they needed. So he needed to do something at that point. But I mean, I think it's okay to make a sub at halftime if you're still 0-0 and you're not getting the creativity in the central midfield that I think is going to be critical to breaking through on that low block of Iran's to do that. And I think that's where Greg has to. He gets too comfortable with that group. I feel like he's superstitious in a lot of ways. He's like, it's going well, but it's not. It's going well, but it's not going great either. It was working, but I mean, if they get the win, they're in a much different position today than if they have to draw. So,
yeah, I think that's really the only issue I can take from both of these performances is, okay, well, we got to draw. And I don't know, you can. Obviously, we have to beat Iran. That we know that like for sure now. We kind of knew that going into the game against England. But regardless, 2 draws in 2 games isn't exactly a bad start to this World Cup, right? Like we can't say, oh wow, but you just watch both of these games and it does feel like we're closer. I feel more confident saying we should have 6 points than we should have 0 points. Joey, am I wrong to feel that, or is it red, white, and blue colored glasses? But I mean, it feels like we've skipped out on 2 wins here.
No, I definitely agree. I would even say 4 points, or even I would take 3 points. Like if we could have won the Wales game was the big one. It's always the case. Like, you win that first game in your group, like it already puts you halfway into the knockout round. Like you're already halfway there. So you just have to either draw, 2 draws again, or just basically not concede or not lose by a lot. And pretty much you should go through. So even if you got to draw against England and you go into Iran, you still probably have to win anyway. And then you're taking 7 points. If you had a draw, you're still taking 5 points. So we're still doing the same point total. We're just doing it a different way in terms of drawing the first 2 and now needing to win. That's the only thing I don't like is that you have to win. Obviously in 2010 against Algeria, worked out really well. But I think Algeria was a different opponent that we're going to be playing Iran, especially Iran coming off that win. I mean, they just came out of nowhere, and beat Wales. I mean, that was not expected, to be quite honest. I thought that Wales was going to go for it and get some points going into England, because they know they have to win now. But they had to win against Iran, and they were probably thinking the same thing. Oh, whatever we do against U.S., Iran's our 3 points, and we'll go into England, we get a draw, we're through with 4 points or possibly 5 points. And that just hasn't worked, really. So, yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, it has to be a win. There's just no thing around it.
I mean, that's where we're at right now, correct? I mean, we have to win, but let's revel a little bit in this moment. Again, England, through 3 World Cup matches, has yet to beat the United States. We have beat them and drawn them twice. England has scored a grand total of 1 goal in those 3 matches. Thomas, for the country that invented the sport and who seemingly has the best league in the world, and if you were to ask them, has the best players in the world, who finished second at the last summer's Euro Championship, albeit they, lost to the team that's not in the World Cup. But, you just would expect this England team to, be actually good.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it in past World Cups with England. I don't know if it's a function of the group of players together just are not able to make that a team that is dominant at that level. I don't know if it's a coaching issue. I mean, there's a number of factors. I mean, obviously they made the run in 2018. I think the knockout stage kind of worked out to their favor. It was very favorable matchups for them to get all the way to Croatia. But I don't know. I think it's a functionality of just just because you have the best players doesn't mean they work together to create the best team. I mean, we've seen that a lot of times with that, and I think you even see it with other nations. It's not just England. I think that falls into that a little bit. I think we're a little bit more hyper focused on them because they are kind of the big brother to us, and because they're the closest physically to where we are. But I think there's a lot a lot of that just kind of attitude around it. As well, that sometimes maybe get in the way too. But I mean, look, I don't think they had their best game, but they played out. They're out there playing their best team, their best sort of soccer in general. I think the U.S. just had a better game plan at the end of the day. So and that's the great thing about soccer. We've seen enough upsets here in the last week to where anything can happen against these top tier nations.
Yeah, I mean, that's what scares me though, right? As we go into the Iran game, is that anything can happen. But I'm just, again, we're going to gloat a little bit about the fact that England, it just seems like they just barely get by sometimes. I mean, granted, they did put a beat down on Iran, but it just, I'm proud of the fact that our team does have those times where they perform and punch above our weight. I mean, I know we can complain about the times that we play down to our opposition, but we also have a good many times where we find a way to get a result against teams that we probably shouldn't have. I mean, obviously, thinking about the modern era, you go back to 2002, getting a win against Portugal, getting a win against Mexico in that tournament. 2006, a draw against Italy. These are games that we probably shouldn't win. And that gives me a lot of pride as an American that we still have, despite the fact that we have the most talented technically group of players that we've had ever, we still have that little bit of American fight and grit in us. And that is still encouraging to see. I don't know, maybe this is just me. Joey, you're more involved in the actual, coaching and bringing up the players, but I don't see why we can't have technical, smart, intelligent soccer players who also have that grit and determination and American spirit with all that athleticism that goes into it. Why can't we have both?
Well, we absolutely should. I mean, I've seen all levels. I've seen ODP, I've seen ECNL, I've seen Elite Academy. I mean, there's good soccer out there, man. Unfortunately, we can talk about the pay-to-play system. We can go on a whole podcast about that. But the kids who are playing for these teams and at this level, they deserve to be at that level. You only get better by playing at a higher level. You don't get better by going into a tournament and beating a team at something. That just does nothing for you. You're not being challenged as a team, so you play up You go out of state, you play in some different tournaments, see some different teams. If you're consistently beating teams 10-0, 12-0, you're too good. You need to move up and give yourself a challenge. But no, there's technically gifted players. Even the state of Georgia, obviously we see 3 players from the state of Georgia that are playing now for the national team on the national team roster. Possibly you could say a 4th, not really Miles from Georgia, but plays for Atlanta United, obviously. The technicality is there. The game has completely changed. It's no longer kick and chase, kick it down, just chase it and get the second ball. It is very tactical. It's very technical. It's very build up. It's triangles. I mean, it's 1-2s. It's a very fast-paced game. Even talking like 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds. I mean, I'm in a referee game and I'm trying to keep up, going back and forth as they're moving so quick, even though it's a smaller field. But no, the U.S. can absolutely have technical and athletic players. It's not. It's just, are they getting to the environment where they're being challenged? If they're not getting challenged, then that's where the issue is.
Well, I agree with that, and I think that this game was definitely a challenge, and I think the boys were up to it. And Thomas, I think that's kind of, again, where you want to see that in the World Cup. I think this felt different than the World Cups of past, where, like I said, we got those results against those good teams, but this felt different in the sense that, like, we truly deserved it. Is that wrong to say, like I think we should have won this game to that point? I mean, it's that type of performance that we put in. Is that indicative of the growth of the sport so far in this country?
I think so. I mean, it was different. They played a much better quality opponent at a high level. They weren't just grinding it out. I think that Portugal match in 0-2 really, to me, was kind of that same sort of feeling. They really took it to them. We didn't get the goals that we needed versus England, obviously, but they were there.
Yeah.
They played at that highest level, and I think that was, they weren't just grinding it out, in a situation, and just hoping to hold on. I mean, they had their moments with that, but we had I don't know, the possession was pretty close. I mean, if you take away that first 15 or 20 minutes where they pretty much, England had 90% of the percentage of possession, excuse me. That's pretty even and not the possession really dictates, dominance, but that's one of the things you do look at to see, what type of possession and what you're doing with that. Because when they had possession, they were going at it. They were firing up. Some of the plays on the sidelines were unbelievable. I mean, some of the back touches and runs up the line. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. I felt, I mean, I've watched this team for a very, very long time, and I haven't seen that consistency at that level. Probably 0-2, maybe 2010 a little bit at moments, but in this year had some of that same, same sort of excellence that as fans we want to see at that highest level, and so it was exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it does feel like this team is playing better soccer on the whole. But let's kind of close the book on this England game for a second, and give me your final unhinged patriotic thought, Joey. What do you feel about this country, the sport in this country, the trash English team? I mean, give me your just most patriotic red, white, and blue take right now.
I just got to say I'm excited for 2026. I mean, we're going to be on home soil. We're going to be, in our own country, time zones and stuff like that. Like, not going to be doing all this crap, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to have to watch games. I'm just excited
we
for
hope
the future. To think that this team in their first World Cup, and it's a brand new roster. It's not, there's 2 players that have any caps at the World Cup. I don't know if Sean John was on the 2014 roster. Was he on the 2014 roster?
No.
It wasn't. Yeah, so I mean, it's just to be doing this well. Now, again, they have to finish it. Like, if they do all this and then tomorrow we just blow it, or Tuesday we just blow it, it'll be a really disaster. But the way they've come out and showed the world that, hey, American soccer is different. We're not the same, Waldos we used to be. it's great, man. It's great for the future. And like you're talking about the young core, I mean, every kid is under 27, a couple over 28, 29. Tim Ream, they call him the grandpa out there. He's probably not. This is probably his last World Cup, unfortunately, but he's played really well. The core is there, so in 4 years we're looking at late 20s, early 30s. I mean that's your prime right there. Some guys are gonna be able to come back in early retirement, but it's exciting, man. I am so excited for 2026. But Tuesday, get the job done. Please go to the knockout stage.
Thomas, I mean, over to you. What's your most patriotic reaction to this 0-0 draw against England in a World Cup?
The future, I think the future is bright with this group, but you have to get to the knockout stage. You have to. I saw some comment today saying, why does it matter, if you might potentially lose? One, I don't think they need to get there. It's that, wow, they're making things happen. Because, I mean, the numbers of people who watch this, I mean, I have so many friends that aren't soccer friends that are watching these games. And it's impressive. And again, you have friends, people that don't watch, that love club and don't watch international, but you have to get to that next stage. You have to do that, because when they remember this World Cup and the 2026 come, it's going to be a different ballgame. Like, I remember, Pulisic in 2022. I remember, Reina and all these other players, and to be able to do that at that stage and set the stage, set the table for that, because that's going to be huge in terms of gaining that fan base, gaining that interest, getting that 7, 8, 9-year-old kid that is kind of just watching for the first time to really just embrace it and say, wow, these are our players. These are coming from, you're setting a standard. It's not the Ronaldos or the Messis of the world. It's a Pulisic. Obviously he's not the greatest in the world, like the two I mentioned, but it's a recognized player. And it's so exciting that they've done this, and with such a young group, but they have to get through it. They've got to get that win, because if they don't, I think you've lost a lot with that. I mean, that coming into this, that was the minimum. Greg has to get out of the group, and then at that point, I think you can have sky's the limit. In terms of what's next. After that, to the knockout stage.
Well, I've said on many podcast episodes before this, and when I go on live with Soccer Down here in the morning, that I am still anti-Greg having a second term, just flat out, because I'm anti that of any national team coach having more than one cycle. And he has had a full, like, outside of the 2018 year, he has had a full cycle. This wasn't like he got brought in late. Like, he has had 2 full Gold Cups. He's had a Nations League and a half. He's had a full World Cup qualifying cycle. This is his team. This is the image that he wants to portray. I don't think that getting out of the group is enough to just give him the job, but I think it's enough to be satisfied with this tournament. But to do that, we have to beat Iran. So let's look at that match right now. Iran, 4 goals in 2 games, only 3 points. And to be quite honest, they looked a little, I don't want to say incapable of scoring against Wales, because they were clearly creating chances, but they scored 2 late goals against Wales after Wales, their goalkeeper Hennessy got a red card, and they were playing with 10 men. So excuse me for being a little bit overconfident of the fact that an Iran team that gave up 6 goals to England, who didn't score against, a 11-man Wales team, I think we can take them on. I think we can beat them. And to a little bit to Joey's point, like, I do think that they will sit back. I think that is going to be their goal, because at the end of the day, they do only need a draw. I mean, they could bank on a Wales, win if they want to. That would be risky for them. But at the end of the day, they could get through with the draw, right? The math is a little iffy on who would actually get through if that happens, but a draw could get them through. A win would definitely get them through, though, right? So I don't think they're going to be fully sat back. It's not going to be bat down the hatches and defend for 90 minutes. They're obviously going to want to get their chances. But for the U.S., I think this is a team that we can beat. I do agree we're going to have to score more than 1 goal. But, Thomas, what do you think is the recipe to beating Iran, a team that has played well in spots during this tournament, but I think overall has not played as well as the U.S. has played in the first 2 matches of this 22 World Cup?
Yeah, Iran's interesting because they're over the last since 2021, they're have 15 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses, and they've conceded 10 goals in those matches, and of 9 of those matches, there have been 1 goal differential matches. So they don't score a lot. I mean, I think there was a 10-0 win somewhere in there for them, and that's a lot of World Cup qualifying. I don't think there's any Asia Cup in there, but they don't score a lot. So it's gonna be we're gonna have to have creativity. And that's the thing. I don't know what Greg's gonna do. I don't think he's gonna make a lot of moves. It's probably you're probably gonna see Ferreira in there. You've got to find a way to break down that low block and score early, and make sure you're preventing any counters, because I think that's where their strengths are. I can see Iran. The reason to score early is because if you get to the 70th minute and you haven't scored and it's 0-0, they're just going to park the bus.
Yeah,
and that's it. You better hope for some counter. And the U.S. doesn't counter a lot in that fashion where you're going to see like open field and one-on-one opportunities with the way this style of play that Greg is implementing. You don't see a lot of that opportunity where you have the advantage coming forward. You see it once in a while, but not as often as I would like to see. But that's just kind of what the way the style is. So I think you're going to have to find some creativity early to break them down and find that, and maybe they do, because see I think the Wales win, I think that the Wales got countered with that red card, and I don't know, they just lost it.
Yeah,
I mean, those are the 2 latest goals ever in extra time in World Cup history. So I think that's that's pretty impactful. Way that changed there, because that game easily ends in a tie, 0-0. So I think I don't say it's fluky, but it's definitely, 2 goals at that late point is a little bit, unorthodox based on how that match was going before it happened. So,
Joey, do you think that we need Jesus Ferreira in the starting lineup?
Just want to see him get his opportunity. I mean, we can talk about leaving who we left behind, but you've seen Sargent, you've seen what he offered. You've seen Haji Wright. You've seen what he offered. I mean, it just makes sense naturally that you got to progress, see the next striker, and maybe even 2 strikers. Maybe throw on Josh Sargent and Ferreira, or Haji Wright and Ferreira, or whatever the combo. Maybe throw on 2 just to throw off Iran a little bit. I don't know how the formation would change, obviously, with that, but
we're doing a 2-4. We're doing a 2-4-2 or a 2-4-4. That's what.
Yeah,
we're doing.
I mean, whatever it is. I mean, obviously we know the MMA is there, so I don't know. Back line, you can make those changes, whatever. The MMA is coming back, obviously, with force. Yeah, that early goal was critical. Like Thomas just said, we can't be sitting in the 60th, 70th minute, because at that point they're just going to bunker and just kick everything out. I mean, it's going to be absolute CONCACAF time wasting. Or I think the opposite is maybe they come out, but they play like Mexico does sometimes. They just foul you. They just foul. I hope that's not the game that's going to be, because that really, really sucks. It takes away the rhythm. Players get frustrated. Players get angry. Yellow cards start going around. So I'm really hoping that Iran kind of plays with the U.S. and doesn't just bunker back and make us break it down, because we've talked before, the U.S. is not good at breaking down. They're just not good at doing that. And maybe different formation, different players in there could do it, but we just haven't seen them be able to break down a team, any team, CONCACAF, international, whatever. We're just not very good at it. So the first goal has to come early. I mean, it has to come, I think, in the first 30 minutes. If it doesn't come in the first 30 minutes, we're going to really struggle to score a goal in the second half.
Well, you look at the statistics, and England had more than 70% possession against Iran. Wales had 62% possession against Iran, which is very different for Wales, who is very much a team that doesn't like to have the ball all that much. So we know that the U.S. is going to have the ball. Where I am hesitant to put Jesus Ferreira in is I'm concerned that we'll be resorting to get it wide, cross it in, which is not the style that I trust Jesus Ferreira to be effective in. Now, I also understand that the goal of playing Jesus Ferreira is have him drop a little bit into the midfield, hopefully bring a center back with him, or at least occupy a central defender and be able to get an extra midfielder attacking that back line. But I'm just not sold that Ferreira is the option, but I also can't point to a single moment from either Sargent or Wright within the flow of the game, really, that makes me think that they're the answer to this either. And that's where this conundrum of, like, does the U.S. have an actual striker? I think the answer is still no. But with the amount of possession we're going to have, I do think, Joey, you mentioned a very important stat, and I want to go back to the England game for a second, where we had a lot of corners. We had 7 corners. So that combined with the fact that, as you mentioned, Iran likes to foul a lot. They had 10 fouls called against Wales, 14 called against them in that England game. We got to score on a set piece once this tournament, right? I mean, I feel like that might be the key here, but why we just haven't looked good on set pieces. So again, I'm wondering if we're not good on set pieces, maybe Ferreira is the answer, because who cares if we need Sargent or Wright to get in there with the header? We're not getting good set pieces anyway. Thomas, I mean, I'm not fully convinced about Ferreira, but I wonder if there are any other changes that maybe we see from Berhalter going into this game from a personnel standpoint.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. Greg he'll make a tweak here or there. I mean, I'm not sold on Ferreira either. I mean, I think you can. I'd be okay if he's not. I mean, I'm not sold on him. I don't care if he starts or he doesn't. But the set pieces were better in the last match.
They were.
I thought, I think Pulisic really, was able to drop a few more in there, but still not, huge scoring opportunities. And so maybe that's where you change it. Maybe you have to bring in an Aronson or a Reyna to take that. But I'm not even sure that Greg would even have them do that based on some of the comments made. After talking with Greg, it sounds like he's pretty much going to stick with Pulisic. So I don't see that changing. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe you play a false 9 and you for Aronson or Reyna, and that's maybe your better solution there. I just need more of that creativity. You need more of that creativity, and Ferreira isn't. I don't think he provides that type of creativity that's going to be, drawing those defenders. You've got to have someone with energy or someone that's going to contain and possess the ball, and I think Aronson or Reyna, provide that. So maybe Greg surprises you. Maybe they do go with 2 strikers, but it's Pulisic and Weah, excuse me.
Well, Joey, I mean, Clint Dempsey said that he thinks to get the best out of this team, he thinks that it should be Reyna and Pulisic on the wing and Tim Weah in the middle. What do we think about that?
I like it, really. I had my last lineup. I don't know if y'all saw it, but I put Pulisic and Aronson up top, put Gio underneath him, and played like a 4-4-2 diamond, and just went with that. I love Weah, and I love his speed, and obviously we saw the goal that Pulisic created, so maybe we need that to stretch Iran a little bit. I even, put Pulisic as the center forward and play a false 9. I think that's worked at times. He's played in that position when we, had the injuries to the strikers and couldn't get a good thing going. But I prefer Gio Reyna in the 10 role if he's able to come on, and Aronson, like him on the left, and Pulisic on the right. But no, I mean, you just got to do something different. We just can't see the same kind of thing. Besides just the MMA I'm sold on, but the front 3 has to be either different personnel or a different style of playing. That's the only way they're going to get a goal, because unfortunately, like I said, between the midfield and the attack, it just has not worked. They're just not clicking entirely as they need to. There's been a couple chances, obviously, we've gotten, but it's mostly a midfielder coming forward on a late run, or it's from a free kick or from a corner kick. But we just haven't had that free flowing kind of thing. Like the first goal, the Pulisic to Weah thing was a turnover in the midfield, and a quick counter attack out of the midfield and off a header. But just the front 3 do something different. I don't know what exactly that is, personnel or style of play, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, I want to pitch one idea of a change, and I think I don't know if he necessarily has done anything to warrant not starting, but I almost wonder if you start Aronson for McKennie, because of the way that this game might play out in the beginning, where Iran will try to counterattack quickly. And I like Aronson's ability to counter press more and hopefully create those transition moments off of a transition from Iran. But even then, I'm not convinced. I mean, I feel like the starting 11 is pretty set except for that striker position. And we just seem to be batting around a bunch of ideas because, again, we don't have a striker that really sparks confidence from anyone. But outside of striker, what tactical changes do you think we need to make, if any, to try to break down this Iran defense early on, Joey?
So whatever, Tyler, Weston, and Eunice did last game, do that. I don't, whatever they did last game, just do the same thing. That seemed to work really well. Now against Iran, they're probably not going to play through the middle. We're probably playing down the wings, so it may not work. They may get a little more spread out. But up top, we've got to have, I think, 2 target strikers or 2 target men. Maybe one comes underneath and plays underneath them again, like a false 9, possibly. But I mean, we just got to have 2 up top. I just don't think that spreading this Iran team wide is going to benefit, because they're going to sit back and bunker. They're going to be pushed in anyway. They're going to force you to play it wide because they're so bunkered in. Whereas if we have 2 strikers and they're able to work off of each other and kind of create those, those crosses that come, from a diagonal, from the back post or from the back side, where it comes from 2 passes to the right and it comes back to the left and he's wide open, or vice versa, 2 passes to the left and it comes back to the right. We just have to have, I think, 2 front men to disrupt whatever Iran's trying to do. I don't think they're going to spread out. If we even have Pulisic on one touch line and Way on the other, they're just going to let him stay out there and just say, hey, play it out to him and we'll go, counter with 2 or 3 press cover. I mean, that's what they're going to do. But we just have to have 2 targets, whether that's a midfielder and a striker, 2 strikers, a striker and a winger. We just have to have 2 targets up there, I think, to play with. And we'll see how the game plays out, but I hope that Iran plays, because they just bunker. It's going to be a long day.
Is this maybe the game, Thomas, that we see? This sounds weird because it kind of technically takes away an attacker, but maybe that we see more 2 holding mids and 1 attacking mid to kind of get what we were talking about with Joey, where you have a guy to play off of that striker who's central? Or is that overthinking it way too much?
I think anything's possible. I do like what Joey was saying, though, in terms of 2 target strikers in there, because Pulisic was in that formation. He was in the middle quite a bit. He's creative in that middle, and he draws. And I think this was he played very well. He's very confident playing against, obviously, players he's seen and playing against before. So I think that helped with that confidence. But in that middle, he was definitely able to do a little bit more and have a little bit more space in there, because I don't think we're seeing. I think you saw a little bit more from McKennie up the wing, but you're not seeing that a lot from Musa, in terms of the like dribbleability, in terms of attacking. I think he's kind of partnering with Adams very well. So as much as I'd like to see Musa move forward and attack more, I think that partnership is working very well. I don't think I want to go too far away from that. I mean, I'd like to see a few things there, but it's working very well. So maybe it's a Sargent Weah striker. I'm looking at Ferreira. I'm sorry, I'm going off Ferreira. Joey sold me on it. In his last comment, I can't support Ferreira as a starter. I just can't. He hasn't, other than the 4 goals against Grenada, he hasn't done anything for the U.S. Yeah. You know what I mean? He hasn't done anything at a competitive match level, and so he's out for me. So either it's you put Aronson in there in a false 9, or you do something different, with that striker. Maybe you keep it with 2 again. You've got to put that pressure on. I think they're going to play and come out to play for a period of time, because you can't play for a draw. You can't do that, because that never works. How do you create a game plan for a draw? At some point, you get broken down and you get exposed, and that's not you. And I think any team that does that is not gonna have the best result. Not that even playing is gonna give them the best result either, but they'll play it for a period of time until they see it, see that time left where they can say, yeah, we're gonna bunker in. But I think you'll have chances. They've got to finish them, because Iran does not give up a lot of goals typically. What we saw against England,
that was an anomaly.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I think you have to review that film a little bit, but they, frankly, I'm surprised they're where they are. based on how they played that match. They were very, they weren't playing soccer of any sort. They were disjointed. They were covered, but as you said, possession has not been their game. So U.S. has to make sure they make the best with that possession.
Yeah.
Possession with a purpose.
Yeah, and I think, you saw this against England, Joey, where Iran was able to still create chances without having much of the ball. So defensively, you have to still be worried if you are the United States, because Iran can create chances. I mean, they've got some really good attacking talent that doesn't need a whole lot of help or support. Taremi is a very good player who is able to score on his own, but I'm kind of not concerned too much defensively, because I think the goal is to score a goal within those first 10 minutes. And then at that point, see how many more you can add, because they were so comfortable against Wales to give them possession. And obviously Wales is a team that doesn't do well in possession, but I know the United States has struggled to break down teams, but we are better with the ball at our feet than a team like Wales. So I'm confident that we will get a goal in this game, but I'm not 100% confident that'll be enough. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely it does. Like you said, I mean, the counter, it was against 10 men, so maybe that had something to do with it, but the thing came off a throw-in. He just went down and just tucked it in. It was, it was insane. Just that quick. And then the other one came off a corner, and again, they quick counterattack. It was a 3-on-1. And, obviously going to get those odds every time. And it was late. It was tired. It was, all that stuff. But, yeah, you've got to be aware of that counter. But I think that the U.S. is athletic enough and aware enough that they're going to be aware of that. They're going to be aware that when Iran gets the ball, it's probably going to be a very quick transition. Obviously, seeing England, seeing Wales, that's very similar to what, Wales not so much, but what England usually would do is they would really quick counter. They didn't really try to do that. They, again, tried to play in the middle, and the middle was clogged, so it didn't work in the first half. The second half, they went back to a little more wide. But yeah, they're going to give you the possession, take it. You just got to be patient. And unfortunately, it's going to be passing back and forth, making runs, making feint runs. It's going to be a very patient game, but you've got to be patient. You can't try to rush things. You can't try to force things, because, again, if you give that ball away, especially in the middle third, it's going to be a very, very quick counter. They just got to be aware of that. I think that Tim Ream and Zimmerman are aware of that. We just need to make sure that Anthony and Serginho are aware of that, which they're fast and they're quick and ready to get back. But I think Tim Ream and Walker, you'll see them play a little deeper, probably not come into the half, even if we do have possession, or maybe one will step forward and one will stay way back, just to make sure we don't give up that counter. And again, I think Zimmerman's on a card, so unfortunately, you may have to commit a tactical foul. Tim Ream, commit a foul if you have to. Do not give that counter away, because Iran is only going to get, I'd say, probably 5 chances in the game. They're going to come from a counter or from a free kick, and we need them to not score on any one, because if they score, that means we've got to score another goal. Yeah. I already said we needed 2, so that would indicate that, I'm probably going to get 5 chances to US's 15, I would say, and we've got to convert 3 comfortably, but 2 would be good enough, in my opinion.
Well, let's take a look at the table real quick, because I think we've been talking about it, but we at least need to be clear about what it is. You have at the top England with 4 points on a +4 goal differential. In second place, you have Iran with 3 points, 1 win and a loss. They are at a -2 goal differential. So that is a key as we look at scenarios for advancement. The United States with 2 points on a 0 goal differential, and Wales at the bottom with 1 point and a -2 goal differential. So let's real quick break down some of the scenarios. Thomas, I'm going to rely on you as someone who actually understands numbers. I just repeat what I know. But really, at the end of the day, the United States has one path to advancing out of this group, and you have to win. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, you have to win. There's no other route out. You have to win, get that 5 points, which 100% of the time at this point, 5 points get you to that knockout stage.
We got 5 points the last time England was in our group, so maybe this can happen again. And it was with a win on the last day. So, hey,
Correct.
maybe history repeats itself. When we look at Iran, though, obviously, like we've said, a draw gets them through, but only if Wales doesn't beat England. And I feel like if Wales beats England, obviously they would have to have at least a +1 goal differential. So if Wales beat England, Iran also doesn't go through. Am I wrong about that? I mean, I feel like that's what I've seen batted around.
Yeah, there's a goal differential piece there. I think Wales would have to win by 4 goals because again, they would have to win by 4 goal differential to get over.
Yeah.
To get over England, I think is really what would happen because they would get
that
that
would make
4
sense.
points. Yeah, they'd get that 4 points. The goal differential wouldn't be where it needs to be. So for that, long shot, but hey, in this tournament we've seen a lot of things that have been kind of crazy. So I wouldn't put up.
England are safe with anything but a loss, and even a loss, they're going through without a big loss. I think what I'm wondering is that Iran-Wales matchup, because Iran did get the win over Wales, but Wales still has a point, and they're even on goal differential. Iran has conceded more goals than Wales has. Obviously, Wales has only scored 1 goal, so those things are tricky. I guess to me, I'm just thinking Iran needs more than a draw to be sure they go through.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to settle on a draw. I'm probably not fully correct on this, but obviously it's points, goals, differential, then goal for, and then you start getting into common stuff, which common goal, common opponent stuff within the group to determine the tiebreakers at that point. So yeah, I mean, I look, if I'm Iran, they have to go out and try to win that. I mean, if the U.S. was in that position, it would be the same thing. They've got to go and try to win that match if they're in that Iran's position. You cannot just sit back and wait for other things to happen. It's which is great because it makes these matches matter on the third group match. And you want to see that as a fan of the sport to have those all matter and to not have that predetermined. Yeah, they're already qualified, and just have those kind of dead matches out there. So I think that's important. So yeah, Iran's got to go play. They got the negative differential there just as well as does, and I think that's another reason they've got to go out there and just make sure it's not even a draw. They've got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Because they.
Yeah, England feels very safe to go through. Again, they are at a +4 goal differential, so even a loss to Wales, they should be fine because Wales beats by a goal, they're still through. But hey, we only have to worry about one thing and one thing only, Joey, and that's winning. Any last thoughts on this England game or last thoughts about the Iran game coming up before we close out here?
Well, that's another exciting day in U.S. soccer, that's for sure. I think back to 2010 in Nigeria, and I was on vacation with my girlfriend at the time. I was sitting at my dad's house, and I was so nervous, man. I was like, dude, I really want to go through. We should definitely beat Algeria. And the way the game went out, and last hurl by Howard and Donovan streaking down the field, and the call from Ian Dark. I mean, it was just an incredible soccer moment. And I don't want that to happen again, but at the same time I do. I want to see the U.S. win, but not in a dramatic 90th plus minute winner. Like, that would be obviously textbook Hollywood story, but I don't want that to be, because after the last 2 games, I don't think my heart can take much more seeing that. But I mean, it's another opportunity again. It's an opportunity for a young team to prove themselves that, this is a different team. We belong here. We're going to, get into the knockout stage and see what happens, but we're capable and able to beat an Iran team. We should beat an Iran team. I mean, I think you're looking at position by position. We're probably better in 9 out of 10 positions or 9 out of 11 positions, maybe all 11. And maybe down the bench, we've got 13, 14 players who, ranked wise or where they play their club, they should be better than. But again, you got to put it all together for 90 minutes, 90 plus. You can't make mistakes. You got to take your chances. All of it has to come together. Thomas said it beautifully. We just have to put all the pieces together and just go win. But hey, it's a Tuesday afternoon. I don't think I want to watch it at work. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I can't drink because I'll be in the box. So I've got to go somewhere and seclude myself to watch this game because I know that I'm going to be absolutely bananas watching the match.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone get those PTO requests in or fake a meeting on your schedule, something, because this is not one that you want to have to be distracted during. You need to put your attention on this. Thomas, any final thoughts on this match specifically? I do actually, you know what? I have a question for you. My final question for you. Matt Turner. We didn't talk about him this entire game, this entire recap. He was freaking amazing. I don't want to say anything because as an Arsenal supporter, I still think Aaron Ramsdale is our number one. But he's proven that he can be a starting goalkeeper for a lot of clubs, isn't he?
Yeah, Turner has really, I mean, his composure, everything about him. He had one pass that was a little nerve-wracking, I think.
But he had a fantastic dribble out of the box to make up for it. That was fantastic.
He did. I mean, I don't want to be fully critical, because I love Matt Turner. I love his story, what he's doing on the field for this team, what we've seen from him. And he's been great. He's been real exciting to watch. He's made some huge saves. I mean, he's meeting the call on that. And that's so important, with what we've seen in general, from the goalkeepers, just not knowing, I mean, along the way. And it's hard. I mean, it's a hard thing. We've been, our goalkeepers have been consistent for decades. You know what I mean? You've known who it's going to be between one or two people, along the way. So the Matt Turner is done a great job so far. We still need more from him. I hope, hopefully, through a few knockout round games, obviously, would be great. But yeah, it's exciting to watch. I think the clubs are seeing it, and I don't know what Arsenal's going to do with him, but yeah, he's and I'll be honest with you, I love that jersey that he's wearing, that orange. I'm trying to find it. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the red one, but I saw the orange, right before the tournament started. I'm like, this is fire. I love it. So yeah. And as far as, what the match brings, I kind of go back again, that 2010, very similar situation, needing that result, obviously the winning result. But that Algeria game was wild. I'm looking at the stats right there. The thing that sort of shocks me is they had 10 shots on goal and 22 shots in that game against them, and they only scored, obviously the one at the end there, which is, I mean, that game was just, it was nuts. I remember everything about the day. I remember, where I was, and I was like, it was just, I don't want it to go to that either. You know what I mean? I don't want it to go there. I mean, it's a great moment. I rewatch it all the time, but I need a little bit of I need my nerves need a little bit more of a break. I kind of would, I'd like to have a reasonable, cushion, and have that. It's not going to be that way, but hopefully it's not a last second situation, because that's probably more than the fan group can take. And even the players, it's a lot there, but I'm excited. I'm while confident, I'm cautious. You can't take any of these teams for granted. We've seen that all along this tournament. You've got and not the U.S. would do that. I think they're focused. I just hope that other distractions that we've seen here with player comments, the Eric Ronaldo comment about the Reina situation, and then obviously some of this other political stuff with Iran. I just hope that it does not impact the focus of this team and what the goal is for Tuesday's match and beyond. So I'm let's focus on the soccer. We can't fix the world's problems through through this. So
you're absolutely right. My prediction for this game is we're not going to have 22 shots. That said, I also don't think Iran's goalkeeper is going to be standing on his head the way that Algeria's goalkeeper did that day. So I think that's I do think that's the secret, is take your shot when you have your opportunity. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we haven't really seen this Iranian goalkeeper tested too much since he's had to come on to replace the starter from that first game. So that would be my secret, is let's try to get some shots off that you wouldn't normally want to take. And I know Greg probably isn't the biggest fan of those, but let's get those shots from a little bit of distance, and who knows, something in the box might happen.
It looks like they did try to do that against England a little bit. I think Musa had a couple opportunities. They were a little shy on that.
Yeah.
I think he got one off. So I think that unexpectedness from, because you don't see that a lot from this group, the way it's set up. It's all that cross, type of thing. But if you can get, if Musa can get that look, I mean, McKinney missed him with that corner. Oh, he could have buried that corner, that shot there. But he can also, put a move on the ball from 25, 30 yards out that I think would surprise, any keeper at this point, because the U.S. just doesn't do it that often.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you all reacting to this 0-0 draw against England. It does jokingly feel like a win, but at the same time, a win would have been making us all feel a little bit better today than a draw did. But I appreciate you all being here. Joey, tell the good folks where they can find you on the internet.
Just Logando5 on Twitter and Facebook, Joey Logan. I'm not pretty enough for IG, so.
Well, again, I appreciate you being here, man, and look forward to hearing from you more in the future. Thomas, where can we find your stuff?
US Keeper on Twitter, and I have a couple articles on Jason the Cop with Marcos O'Malley's website, so go check those out. Hopefully I'll have more in the future.
All right, guys. Again, thanks for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Soccer Down Here so you can get this show and all the rest of the content that comes out from the Soccer Down Here network. Make sure you follow the podcast at Soccer for Us Pod. I'm Bart. I'm out.